then it's, do you believe it's worthwhile or not? Yeah.
Beautiful.
Are we going to be doing an exercise here yet?
I would hope. I just don't know what it would be.
Oh, okay. I'm going to need to leave a little bit before 5 because I have to go and I'm scheduled for a massage and I forgot something.
Good for you. Good for you. Go get a massage.
Yeah.
All right.
So that'll be about maybe 10 to 5.
Okay.
So if you're talking, I won't disturb you.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Of course. I mean, for me, this few sentences was a wonderful perspective because I always, for a year, I tried to plan logical levels and media programs.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. You've been doing that.
Yeah, on the research trip at the moment. I know Robert goes scared of this. So I have probably to continue. It's not often a challenge for me to wow. But this was engineer explanation that yeah, well, it really starts here because it's whatever I see with this prepared example, it's fun. It's from the either from the real thing or from the as-if frame. Yeah, as-if different thing. And then, of course, it comes together in a behavior and my behavior research. However, the usual was here. That's so interesting. It's not the answer of all my questions, however, it's a start.
It's very interesting in our work, what we've taken the view in the transforming trainers program that we do. The environment isn't a problem. We've taken that view and we're saying any environment can be changed. That's a perspective we're sorting for. Yeah, but I suppose that's at the belief level in a sense. It shifts things hugely at what you perceive and feel at that level.
Absolutely.
So that then that shifts everything else. So you can build frames in the environment. That's what you can build frames around it. Yeah, so I see a room and I'm sorting. Okay, maybe I'm sorting the difference and then I'm saying, and I believe that that difference doesn't matter.
Exactly, which is a different thing. Because this is for me, this is wow, now it's getting easier because, of course, those models are influencing each other. However, you can sometimes discard them and you can let them influence. This is cool.
So looking at a room and saying, oh, I mean, I had a thing, let's just say, about environment. I wouldn't classify it. I had a thing about environments at one time. I wanted it green, airy, and all of this. As a trainer, I now look, I use different meta programs to sort in the environment.
Exactly.
And I've got an anchored behavior to that, which means I now change the environment in various.
Okay, this is interesting thing. I mean, for me, the media programs include, let's say, two perspectives. The one is the social perspective, and I can sort on each level. For example, if you give me a belief, I instantaneously sort sameness, difference, or whatever.
Well, that's what you've been doing, is working like that.
I can do this. However, when I make the detecting thing with the media program, then it's really starting here.
She's done all this stuff. I told her to biography, and because yeah, comedians are so like under the radar, but she actually.
Dunkley, I thought that their thing about when they take you crossing the barrier. I know, and actually that was one of my inspirations for the thing of the goal. Finding the message on the goal. I first saw them do that, and I said, yeah, you just take things and symbolize. So I just wanted to symbolize the goal here. What's the person, so yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot of inspiration.
And also I think she plays like facial comedy for that was big. I don't know what it was, but yeah, but she doesn't ever really
I know. I hadn't really thought of that, and thank you for reminding me.
also,
I'm going to get some water and follow me and ask a question. Well, I'm doing three things at once. I'm reordering your thinking about Diltz's levels. And I'm discussing how the levels correspond to complete domains of knowledge in NLP. And I'm trying to teach the version of metaprose. It's not a surprise you're not getting it all. Okay. Mm-hmm. Talented. I saw it actually. I was just deleting it from my reaction, so hoping that you would delete it. So, and some of you did, and some of you are more auditory and went, somebody's playing the piano. So I was asked a couple of questions on break that I think bear some explanation here. And one of them is just for you to know that I know that I'm doing three things right now. Is that one of those things is I'm changing your ideas about Diltz's levels, the idea that you have an environment and you have constraints and so forth, and I'm associating each level with a complete domain of NLP knowledge and giving it a label in each case. And I'm explaining how metaprograms relate to this model. So I realize it wouldn't be surprising you might be a little confusion. So yes, I'm asserting that environment, while you can think of it as physical environment, that a better way for our field to think about it is as the modalities and submodalities that the people bring to the occasion. Grinder and Bandler were asked, did they ever teach NLP schools, Richard Bandler and John Grinder West, did they ever teach NLP to people who were blind or deaf? And their answer was, all the time, all the time. People were not using their modalities, and they weren't noticing what was, quote, in the environment, unquote. So I think of the environment as the modalities, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, as in the tactile and the proprioceptive in the muscles, and the kinesthetic, visceral feelings, gut stuff, as the environment that each person is able to be aware of. And that's why there's so much training in the acuity, to make you more aware of the environment. What I'm asserting here in terms of meta-programs is that you're noticing the environment relative to the meta-programs. You walk into this room and you notice the room if you're more place-oriented. If you're more difference-oriented, you notice something that's new. Oh, they moved that over there. And so on and so on. You notice what a difference it makes for you if you sort more by self, and you notice what a difference it makes for others if you're more, oh, that's really nice. There's a place for people to sit and kind of sit around and have a coffee. Even though I'm standing over here observing it, because I kind of just stay out of those social things. Right. So we have our biases even in these moments of perception relative to the meta-programs. And that these then show up in the kind of anchors that we're going to have, the kinds of states that we're going to experience. Someone who observes a lot is going to have a lot of observer. They may not know so much about being in the experience. We know people like this. They kind of stand as they say life, and again, language. They say life is passing me by. They're having a very exciting time. And I say that way because we hear the softness in the voice. We hear the distance. That's a reflection in the voice tone of the neurology, neurolinguistic. And so the person builds up certain anchors. Or somebody that's in life and in the moment and wants to participate and is active. And so they begin to what? They begin to build up a lot of anchor distinctions, state distinctions for, say, activity. They love to feel those muscles move. They get good feelings from moving their muscles. What is skiing about? What is mountain biking about? Other than that kind of thing. Oh, yes, and the tactile, whoosh, as you're going down and feeling it in your hair and on your skin. So that environment, those desirable anchors and states, those behaviors they learn about maneuvering the bike, those capabilities and strategies they build up on how to develop their balance more and how to judge whether a situation's dangerous or not. Their beliefs about the importance of having an exciting, interesting life. Their belief in themselves about their ability to handle moguls when they're going downhill or going down one of those. These guys coming down, hey, these little bicycles, they're coming down the mountains out of Boulder at 60 miles an hour. Yeah! They have a belief about themselves that I would say, as I watch them, is based on experience, that they are in control of the bike. They know what to do. And part of their identity, you might hear phrases like adventurer, swashbuckler, these ideas that people get. There's just a Harley convention here. What a great thing to have. These guys on their bikes. This is what we're missing in this field. We don't have colors. They got the leather jackets, and they got the wings on the back, and they got those shiny big machines. And that sound is patented. It is. Vroom, vroom. Some modalities. They're standing around admiring each other's bikes, Behavior. Their capabilities. Strategies that develop around that whole culture, as they develop around any culture, whether it's the bikers or the Silicon Valley or the politicians or the corporate or whatever overgeneralization you want to make. I was asked, so are the meta-programs on more on one level than another? And I went and I thought about that, because I asserted they aren't. And I'm right. Yeah, who said? Thank you for getting the joke. And I think that people will experience them hanging out more on one level than another based on which level they hang out on. See, I find when people come into the master program, they usually already are leaning towards one of these levels. Now, every one of these levels, you can see, has a different capacity, different possibilities. You see that, don't you? Be very different. You do some modality change. You do an anchoring, a re-anchoring, or a breaking of anchors. You help somebody build up new strategies and help streamline strategies. You help them to develop new parts, to reframe parts, to combine parts. You work on a metaphoric level with a person. And there is no right level. Any one of these levels could be the level that but there's no right one. What am I doing? Intensity, right? Remember, there's ranking, there's intensity, and there's how often you use something. Metaprograms. You can think of these levels as also a way of sorting out how people make sense of the world. Some people like to be in the experience. They want to go to a concert and have it wash over them. They want to ride that bike and just experience all of that going on. They want to go up on the mountaintop and meditate and center and be in that experience. They are very much paying attention to the environment. Their attention is there. Similar to your attention was on either the two that were the same or the one that was different. Similar that your attention is more on the people in the room or the information that you're getting, or, we could really use some better things in this room, or what we're going to do in just a few minutes. All of it's there. Remember, the territory is infinite. And we notice bits of the map. And we enjoy the bits we like and notice. Or at least I think we ought to. It might be a better idea if we did. So, we're going to go into a kind of exercise that you haven't had before. Because there's nothing to change. There's nothing to do. And there's everything to become aware of. Or in the words of that famous American baseball philosopher, you can learn a lot just by looking and listening. What we're going to have you do is get into groups of 4, just to kind of throw you off. I know NLP is so based on groups of 3. I think a little unsettling would do well here. And in these groups of 4, you're going to have a designated speaker. Okay? And that means you talk. Okay. And then you're going to have listeners, 3 of them. And guess what you're going to be doing, listeners? You're going to be picking a program. You're going to feel free to restrict yourself. Now, we have so far a few programs. We've got the perceptual positions. Yeah. We've got time. We've got the content of our experience. Hiding below, we have sameness, difference and contrast. Better, worse, and so we have the sameness, and we have the comparison, and we have the difference. And we have the levels. And you're going to have the person talk just a little bit. Would you like to volunteer for this? No, I'm really asking. I'm not presupposing. I'm saying, how wonderful would it feel to No, I'm actually asking. Would you like to volunteer for this? Yeah? Okay, okay. So come on up. Woo! Okay, have a seat if you'd like. Oof, there we go. And what we're actually going to do is, instead of you all being all the programs, since we have a number of them, why don't we just pick different people to listen to different ones this first time around? You can claim one for yourself. So who wants what? Okay, so you're going to be listening for the language of which level. Now, how are you going to know? How are you going to know which level they're speaking on? What's that? Ron, don't get too specific on me now.
Identity would be I am X, Y, or Z.
All right, so if they make identity statements or they make a metaphor, then you can say, that was one for the identity level. And if they talk about how wonderful it is, the cool rain in the afternoon up here, or how chilly they feel at night, you know you're speaking about the modalities. And if what? Yeah, if they talk about states, or if they talk about their sensory-based behavior, I grasp the handlebars, or I walk downtown. So we're talking about behaviors. If they say, I'm really trying to figure out where I can apply this material to my work. Trying to figure out how, strategies, yeah? And if they talk about what's important to them, if they talk about their values, they talk about their beliefs, they say what's really important to me is, or if they use criteria words, especially nominalization criteria words, like trust and respect, goodness. If they use sensory-based words, environment. Does that make sense? If they start talking about outcomes, if they start talking about wanting to resolve conflict, then it's about reframing. If they talk about they don't really know who they are, it's talking about identity. Is that making sense? All right. So that's the way that you in particular, Anwar, why don't we put two people on that? All right, you two. Isn't this great? You don't have to all you have to do is talk.
About what?
Something you want to talk about.
Okay.
Something you enjoy talking about. Yeah, you get ready. All right. We're going to have a couple other people doing the match-mismatch. They're going to be listening for words that say, well, it's the same, or it's identical, yeah? Or they're going to say, it's different. Talking about a whole new thing. It's unique, what I'm going to talk about. Or they might say, it would be better if I talked about, because there's nothing, I don't know about improving this, but I don't want to make it worse. And then you'll be able to figure out, and we'll label this one here while we're at it, is that we have sameness, and we have difference, and we have comparison. So who's going to take that? A couple people? Ron? Who else? Jim, thank you. Okay. Now, I don't know who's going to take perceptual positions, but I bet that you do. Okay. And somebody else? Maybe Michael? All right, so you're going to be listening for the I, the me, or the you, or the them. Yeah, okay. The he, she, the it. You're also, of course, going to be noticing the nonverbal behavior. All right. But wait, there's more. What about who's going to notice content metaprograms? Whether the person's more oriented to people or to information or things. Or what? Or time? Yes. Or place or activity. Gene? Sure? Okay, you two, so right there. I'm right behind you. And time. Who's going to be noticing whether it's more present statements or past statements, future statements? And again, you know by the verb changes. Now, I'm seeing there something that Ron's doing I think is a really good idea. Each of you is going to want to develop a little chart. Yeah? So that you've got past, present, future, or you've got observer, self, other, or you've got the different content meta programs, or you've got the square with the sameness and the difference and the comparison. So you have a way of ticking off each time you hear or see that behavior. Now, I want you to be tricky for them, okay?
Okay.
Sometimes you're going to need to look up from your paper now. Because people will do stuff like, they'll go like that. A little more front. Okay, well, I'll show you. Like that, right? And that's an example of outcome. So when I'm thinking about, yeah, because I'm making a sequence, which is different than, right, than this one, right? Which is, which has to do, well, I'm just saying, communication is redundant. There's neurology, physiology you'll see, and there's also linguistic. So this kind of behavior indicates bits of time. That's a sequence. That's much more about strategies. Also future. Also chunking, but we'll get to that later. And this one is more about expanding the set, about what's more important, criteria, parts. And so, once again, the nonverbal leads the verbal. And just think, we got somebody on this yet? On time? Who's doing time? Past, present, future?
We have no more people.
Over here? Over here? Okay. You realize just on these very few distinctions, we used up the whole room. And you know, you're doing it all the time, and you don't even need to think about it. I tell you, you are so talented. And so are all of us. So, your mission, should you decide to accept it, is to talk about something that you enjoy. Now, something doesn't have to be a thing, but you get the idea. Talk about something that maybe you're passionate about, or maybe you just enjoy remembering, so that you have a good time with the experience.
Okay.
And we'll watch and listen from way over. Well, actually, what we're going to do is we're going to. There's one?
Yeah, over there.
Oh, you have sensory acuity too. Ah, well. I wouldn't hook it on that. That's too nice. Oh, okay. That works for you?
Yeah.
Is that all right, gentlemen?
Ooh. Is it working? Okay. It's hot.
All right. So,
So,
something you enjoy.
yeah. Let's talk about my wonderful future. Okay? I would like to talk about my future because I have already planned everything. So I know everything about my next year. and maybe next 2 years. Yeah. First of all, I want to go on holiday because I need it. And I want to go in California when I will meet a lot of new people. And I would like to spend 6 weeks on the seaside with a hot sun and without doing anything. Then after that, at the end of September, on 29th, I'm going back to Italy because I think that someone is waiting for me. I hope so. And I will start a new master in human resources. And I'm really interested in that because I always want to learn more and more and more and more about human resources.
Okay, they gave it away right at the beginning. You're too easy. Okay, what do we got? I mean, the thing is, I could have stopped you at one sentence, but I wanted to kind of let you see that the patterns begin to repeat themselves, and there is variety. People aren't doing one thing. That was the original idea here, is that people they usually have 2 of them that are their favorites, and they have some others. And what did you find out? Let's get some team reports. And we'll hold the levels team for a little bit later. What about, what time frame? Future. And? Right, so she went to the past a little bit. She said, I want to talk about my future. And people say, oh, it's all about the future. But then she said, I've already planned. So tick right there, ED, past tense. I know everything about my next year, back to the future. Yeah. Well, it's still in the future, just because she knows it. So you think if you already know everything, it's got to be in the past. So this is tricky. I already know everything about my future. So she's in the present, looking in the future, already knowing it the way other people know their past. But people think if they already know it, it must have happened. No, she already knows it because she's making lots of distinctions. And you're right, she also went to the past. She planned it already. And she carried that plan up to now. Anything else? Good, good. Meet new people.
The assumption was that there's a difference between old people and there's also people-oriented.
Yeah, okay, hang on there. There's one more, though, I want to get, because it's just slightly slippery and it's great. That she wants to go to California and do what? And lie in the hot sun and do nothing. And at that moment, she was there. Yeah? Okay. All right. So there's another way of appreciating that. Sometimes it's not in the verb. Sometimes it's in the description. That she went into that future and stayed in that a moment there. Okay. Very good. Very nice. See, you pick, the person just isn't doing one thing. They're popping around. So what about the similarity, difference, comparison? Okay, and we'll get to what that is. That goes to that group. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only thing that I got was meet new people. New would be different from old.
Absolutely, new people. Get to meet new people. Start a new program.
There was one thing that I thought may be the same, and that is, I don't know if there is someone that is waiting for you in Italy already that you know. So there's a sameness there.
There's sameness there. And you could also presume a sameness about she knows about lying in the sun and doing nothing. And she ended with, I want to know
More and more and more.
more and more and more and more. Yeah. So, what we've really got is newness and comparison and a little bit of sameness. Right, so she's hanging out more here. And it may be contextual because she's on vacation and she's seeking newness. She goes back to her work and she wants to do more. This is about how they can shift. Now, we didn't do enough elicitation to find out, but we can begin to notice these things. Okay. What about the content meta programs?
Content, as far as talking about people,
Mm-hmm.
meeting lots of people,
Mm-hmm.
and having somebody waiting for you.
Hopefully, yeah.
The activity that I saw was actually maybe, I don't know if doing nothing is an activity, but laying in the sun, doing nothing but laying in the sun.
I'd actually, it's about place. It's about being in a place. Mm-hmm. That goes to something else, yeah. Place, yes. Thank you. Also, I'm going to begin to slip there. Also, seaside, sand, hot. What is that? Environment, right. She's describing the environment, yeah. So you see how these relate to each other as well. One is not causative of the other. I insist that metaprograms are separate and different, but they do relate, and that's an example of a relation. What would you say is her leaning there? Yeah, which one does she like to do more of? You think place?
Yeah.
Yeah? What if there are no people there?
Oh, yeah. That's important.
Yeah,
More
that's
important.
more important.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can play little criteria games with her, the little hierarchy games like, so you could be in a wonderful place and no people. Or you could be in an average place with wonderful people. That's better. Yeah, really, I know. And you could all lie on a rock together. Oh, beach.
Yeah.
Okay. We're just beginning this process, so it's not about nailing it down specifically. It's reticular activation that you're beginning to notice. This has been going on all the time, including a model created only a few years ago by one of NLP's key co-developers, this idea of levels. What were you hearing? So she was